The world wasn't prepared for the shockwave that followed Jeff Bezos's recent announcement. It wasn't a business merger or a space venture. It was personal, deeply personal. For months, his relationship with Lauren Sánchez has been the embodiment of high-profile romance. But now, without warning, the facade has fractured. The announcement didn't just hint at trouble, it confirmed it. "It's a living nightmare," he said. Speculation ignited instantly. What was he referencing? Was it betrayal? A buried past? A decision that could cost them both more than just love? But answers aren't found in the fallout. They're buried in the beginning, in the spark that started it all. A scandalous beginning. From the very first headlines in January 2019, the relationship between Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez captivated the world, not just because of the names involved but because of how shockingly the story unfolded. It wasn't a slow-burning romance or a discreet coming together of two people in transition. No, this was something else entirely: messy, high stakes, and instantly combustible. Whispers had already been swirling through elite media circles, hinting that the world's richest man and a glamorous former TV anchor turned helicopter pilot were more than just acquaintances. But no one could have predicted the speed or the spectacle with which their relationship would explode into public view. Within hours of Bezos's Twitter announcement confirming his separation from Mackenzie Scott, his wife of 25 years and the co-founder of his empire, the narrative took a sensational turn. That very same day, multiple sources confirmed what had only been whispered until then: Bezos had already been romantically involved with Sánchez for quite some time. And then came the bombshell. Leaks to the press were a series of steamy, intimate text messages between Bezos and Sánchez. Messages that left little to the imagination. Phrases like "I want to breathe you in" and "I am so full of love for you" were splashed across tabloid covers, instantly rewriting the world's understanding of the billionaire's carefully controlled personal life. The messages painted more than a love story, they painted a timeline, a damning one. For many, it became immediately clear that this relationship hadn't blossomed in the aftermath of two dissolving marriages. It had been ignited in secret, possibly long before divorce papers had even been drafted. While Bezos was still legally married to Mackenzie and Sánchez was wed to Hollywood mega agent Patrick Whitesell, their clandestine romance had allegedly already taken flight, both figuratively and literally. Their connection reportedly began with business. Sánchez, whose aviation company specializes in aerial filming, had started consulting on projects for Blue Origin, Bezos's private aerospace venture. On paper, it was a professional relationship. But in reality, insiders later claimed, the collaboration quickly turned personal. The two began appearing at the same high-profile events, elite galas, charity fundraisers, private tech dinners, and always seemed to orbit each other with a quiet but unmistakable gravitational pull. Friends and colleagues began noticing the signs: late-night meetings that ran suspiciously long, discreet weekends in remote locations, eye contact that lingered too long to be platonic, excuses made, appearances dodged, and eventually the inevitable: whispers turning into accusations and accusations turning into front-page headlines. When the scandal broke, it sent tremors through not just the media but also the upper echelons of business and entertainment. Two high-profile marriages seemingly blindsided by a secret romance that had unfolded beneath the radar of even the most watchful paparazzi. And as public fascination swelled, so did the scrutiny. Was it love or lust, destiny or deception? Yet despite the scandal, Bezos and Sánchez seemed to barrel forward at full speed, maybe even too fast. And now, with Bezos's recent announcement stirring suspicion, many are revisiting how their scandalous origin may have planted the seeds for what he now hints as a crumbling relationship. Rushing in, did they move too fast too soon? Within weeks of their romance becoming public in 2019, reports surfaced that Bezos and Sánchez were already planning to move in together. Observers were quick to note that both had only recently emerged from long-term marriages. Despite the complexity and emotional baggage that naturally accompanies such lengthy partnerships, Bezos and Sánchez appeared to be racing headlong into a new chapter with little time for pause or reflection. Relationship experts at the time issued subtle warnings, pointing to the potential pitfalls of moving too fast. When you live with someone, relational dynamics shift dramatically, cautioned renowned therapist Tanha Prabhu. It forces a level of intimacy and confrontation with unresolved issues that can be overwhelming if the foundation isn't stable. Still, the glamorous couple appeared unfazed, basking in their high-profile romance under the glare of international headlines. This premature cohabitation now appears to have been a red flag that many overlooked. What seemed like passion may have been impulsivity, and what looked like commitment may have been avoidance of emotional processing. And with Bezos's recent announcement, the speed at which their relationship escalated is being re-examined as an early warning, one that may have gone unheeded. Behind the glamour, the relationship was never what it seemed to the outside world. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez were the embodiment of the modern power couple, glamorous, successful, and seemingly inseparable. In a 2023 interview with the Wall Street Journal, Sánchez herself offered a rare, intimate glimpse into their private world. "We're together all the time," she said with a smile, as though describing something perfectly natural. She spoke of waking up next to Bezos every day, working out side by side, flying together on Blue Origin test flights, and even sharing office space for their respective ventures. Their lives, it seemed, were intricately woven together with no line left undrawn between love and lifestyle. But behind the sparkling exterior of shared ambition and non-stop companionship, a few quiet warning signs began to surface, signs that were easy to miss beneath the glitter but impossible to ignore in hindsight. Relationship experts, while careful not to speculate directly, began noting that what some romanticize as inseparability can actually point to something more precarious: emotional enmeshment. When couples don't create space for personal autonomy, one therapist explained, the relationship becomes a single organism, one that breathes as a unit but suffocates the individual. What starts as intimacy can slowly evolve into dependency, and dependency, over time, can breed frustration, anxiety, and emotional burnout. And burnout, it seemed, may have been quietly building beneath the surface of the Bezos-Sánchez dynamic. Those closest to the couple began to notice the subtle yet telling shifts, the rare but palpable moments of tension during public appearances, the conversations where Sánchez's voice seemed slightly more assertive, Bezos slightly more withdrawn. They weren't arguments exactly, they were micro-reactions, glimpses of strain that belied the polished smiles. Some insiders pointed to a deeper imbalance brewing in the shadows, one not rooted in affection or compatibility, but in power, financial power, social capital, global reach. Sánchez, by any metric, was successful, a respected media figure, a trailblazing helicopter pilot, an entrepreneur in her own right with a net worth reportedly hovering around $30 million. In almost any relationship, she would be the higher earner, the star. But next to Jeff Bezos, whose net worth at the time exceeded a staggering $240 billion, her achievements, through no fault of her own, were inevitably eclipsed. In rooms filled with billionaires, heads of state, and innovators, Bezos wasn't just a participant, he was the gravitational center. And Sánchez, despite her experience and intelligence, risked becoming perceived as the woman beside him rather than a force in her own right. Experts in power dynamics noted that this kind of financial and reputational disparity can lead to an invisible but corrosive tension. "It's not about who makes more," one psychologist said. "It's about who has the final say, who dictates the pace of life, who sets the rules." When one partner holds vastly more influence, economically or socially, it can lead to a growing sense of imbalance. And over time, that imbalance starts to show up in small but consequential ways. From major life decisions to public appearances, even down to who holds the spotlight at any given moment. Such disparities can reshape the emotional DNA of a relationship. For the couple who once seemed united in every moment, in mission, questions began to arise. Was Sánchez truly a partner, or was she becoming something closer to a fixture in Bezos's orbit? Did she still have her own voice, or was she speaking through the lens of someone else's legacy? Now, in light of Bezos's recent announcement, these signs no longer seem minor. They seem like the building blocks of what may now be unraveling before our very eyes. As it turns out, these tensions were only the beginning of a much deeper divide that would soon be exacerbated by family dynamics. Ultimately, the cracks in their relationship would be exposed by a far more personal and explosive family conflict. Family drama and legal betrayals, cracks in the foundation. In February 2020, The carefully constructed facade of harmony in Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's world was suddenly and violently cracked open, not by scandalous headlines or business missteps, but by a betrayal that hit closer to home than either could have anticipated. Michael Sanchez, Lauren's own brother, launched a public and bitter legal battle, filing a defamation lawsuit against Bezos. He claimed the Amazon founder had falsely accused him of leaking private, intimate photos of Bezos and Sanchez to those closest to the couple began to notice the subtle yet telling shifts, the rare but palpable moments of tension during public appearances. The conversations where Sanchez's voice seemed slightly more assertive, Bezos slightly more withdrawn. They weren't arguments exactly, they were micro-reactions, glimpses of strain that belied the polished smiles. Some insiders pointed to a deeper imbalance brewing in the shadows, one not rooted in affection or compatibility but in power, financial power, social capital, global reach. Sanchez, by any metric, was successful, a respected media figure, a trailblazing helicopter pilot, an entrepreneur in her own right with a net worth reportedly hovering around $30 million. In almost any relationship, she would be the higher earner, the star. But next to Jeff Bezos, whose net worth at the time exceeded a staggering $240 billion, her achievements, through no fault of her own, were inevitably eclipsed. In rooms filled with billionaires, heads of state, and innovators, Bezos wasn't just a participant, he was the gravitational center. And Sanchez, despite her experience and intelligence, risked becoming perceived as the woman beside him, rather than a force in her own right. Experts in power dynamics noted that this kind of financial and reputational disparity can lead to an invisible but corrosive tension. It's not about who makes more, one psychologist said. It's about who has the final say, who dictates the pace of life, who sets the rules. When one partner holds vastly more influence, economically or socially, it can lead to a growing sense of imbalance. And over time, that imbalance starts to show up in small but consequential ways. From major life decisions to public appearances, even down to who holds the spotlight at any given moment. Such disparities can reshape the emotional DNA of a relationship. For the couple who once seemed united in every moment, in mission, questions began to arise. Was Sanchez truly a partner, or was she becoming something closer to a fixture in Bezos's orbit? Did she still have her own voice, or was she speaking through the lens of someone else's legacy? Now, in light of Bezos's recent announcement, these signs no longer seem minor. They seem like the building blocks of what may now be unraveling before our very eyes. As it turns out, these tensions were only the beginning of a much deeper divide that would soon be exacerbated by family dynamics. Ultimately, the cracks in their relationship would be exposed by a far more personal and explosive family conflict. Family drama and legal betrayals, cracks in the foundation. In February 2020, the carefully constructed facade of harmony in Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's world was suddenly and violently cracked open, not by scandalous headlines or business missteps, but by a betrayal that hit closer to home than either could have anticipated. Michael Sanchez, Lauren's own brother, launched a public and bitter legal battle, filing a defamation lawsuit against Bezos. He claimed the Amazon founder had falsely accused him of leaking private, intimate photos of Bezos and Sanchez to the tabloid press, a move that had ignited a media firestorm just 1 year earlier. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through both the public and private spheres of their lives. For Lauren Sánchez, the betrayal wasn't just public, it was painfully personal. She quickly and unequivocally sided with Bezos, denouncing her brother's actions in a raw, emotionally charged statement. This was a deep and unforgivable betrayal, she declared. Her words carried the weight of someone caught between the two most powerful men in her life, and choosing one meant cutting ties with the other, possibly forever. Although the courts eventually dismissed Michael's case, the emotional wreckage it left behind wasn't so easily swept away. What had started as a sensational legal drama soon morphed into something more corrosive, a slow-burning wound that would quietly fester behind the scenes. Insiders later revealed that while Bezos appreciated Lauren's unwavering support, the entire ordeal left him deeply wary. He had endured political attacks and corporate rivalries, but nothing had prepared him for the emotional volatility of someone else's family being weaponized so publicly. The lawsuit's aftermath strained Bezos and Sanchez's relationship, particularly when her family was involved. Bezos felt increasingly uncomfortable with their financial expectations. Meanwhile, Sánchez struggled to balance her loyalty to her family with her life with Bezos. The tension escalated, testing the foundations of their relationship: trust, loyalty, and mutual respect. The stress and resentment formed a pattern of conflict, creating a growing pressure between them. Amidst this turmoil, Jeff Bezos surprised the world with a lavish gesture: a proposal to Lauren Sánchez in May 2023. Under a cloudless Mediterranean sky aboard his $500 million super yacht, Kourou, Jeff Bezos slipped a stunning rare pink diamond engagement ring onto Lauren Sanchez's finger. Given the challenges they faced, many wondered if their relationship could withstand the test of time. Relationship experts watching the situation couldn't help but wonder if the proposal was a sign of hope or a desperate attempt to salvage a relationship built on shaky ground. Many believed that the underlying issues were too deep-seated to be resolved by a ring, and that the couple's future looked uncertain. Others looked beyond all this and began speculating about what could be one of the most extravagant weddings in recent history. Would it take place on a private island? Would celebrities and heads of state share the guest list? Would it eclipse even royal weddings in scale and splendor? But as the months ticked by, the excitement began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Engagement delayed, a sign of deeper issues. As months turned into a year, and then nearly two, something strange began to happen. By February 2025, 21 months after the engagement, there was still no wedding date, no official announcements, not even hints of a venue or designer gown. What had once seemed like an inevitable celebration of love had turned into a prolonged silence that grew increasingly difficult to ignore. To 6 months, but for the world's third richest man with resources beyond imagination and a personal team of advisors, planners, and legal experts, this kind of delay began to raise red flags. A source close to the couple offered a rational explanation. The holdup, they claimed, was legal. The couple was reportedly navigating a particularly complex prenuptial agreement, one befitting the immense fortune and global influence at stake. With Bezos's $240+ billion empire spanning tech, space exploration, media, and more, it made sense that attorneys would be meticulously combing through every clause and contingency. The prenup, they said, had grown longer and more intricate with each passing draft. But then Bezos's vast resources and deal-making expertise made one wonder: was the real obstacle really about legalities, or was something deeper and more personal quietly unraveling beneath the surface? Had something shifted emotionally between them, something neither was ready to confront or disclose? This question would soon be answered in a dramatic and unexpected way. In a shocking turn of events, a leaked private conversation has shed new light on the situation. Jeff Bezos's secret confession leaked in what may be the most explosive development yet in the unraveling saga of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez. A leaked private conversation has sent shock waves through both media circles and the elite social spheres they once dominated together. The alleged exchange has pulled back the curtain on a relationship that many believed, at least outwardly, was built on love, partnership, and shared ambition. But behind closed doors, it seems a far more painful reality may have been festering, one marked by emotional strain, interpersonal conflict, and perhaps even regret. According to the source, Bezos was uncharacteristically candid during the off-the-record conversation, revealing a level of emotional fatigue and regret that stunned even those closest to him. "It's a living nightmare," he allegedly confessed. "Len is always demanding, emotionally, financially. Nothing is ever enough for her." The words hit like a thunderclap, not just for what they revealed, but for the unguarded nature of them. Coming from a man known for his meticulous control over every aspect of his image and empire, the raw honesty was jarring. Bezos, who had built a world-renowned reputation on strategic thinking, cold logic, and calculated decisions, appeared for the first time deeply uncertain, vulnerable, and overwhelmed. And he reportedly didn't stop there. In what the source described as one of the most revealing moments of the conversation, Bezos turned his attention to Sanchez's family, the same family that had already caused a deep rift following her brother's 2020 lawsuit. And her family, Bezos is said to have remarked, his expression darkening: "The drama, the pressure, the endless obligations, it's a living nightmare." The source claimed that Bezos looked visibly distressed, a rare sight for someone who has navigated the world's harshest business and political arenas with remarkable composure. In that moment, he wasn't the fearless entrepreneur or the calculated billionaire. He was simply a man in emotional turmoil. "I don't know what to do," he reportedly said. In a world where curated images and strategic appearances can mask almost any truth, this glimpse into Bezos's private emotional state has thrown everything into question, raising not only doubts about the future of the couple but also igniting a wildfire of speculation that shows no signs of slowing down. Public outcry and divided loyalties. The internet did not just react, it erupted. Within hours of the leaked conversation hitting the press, the story went viral, igniting a digital wildfire across social media platforms, news outlets, and gossip blogs worldwide. It wasn't just trending, it was dominating. Some fans and casual observers accepted the revelations without hesitation. For them, the pieces fell neatly into place. It explains everything: the delayed wedding, the secrecy, the off energy lately. One user posted on X, summing up a sentiment shared by thousands. "He's finally saying what he's probably been holding in since the proposal," wrote another. "Honestly, I'm glad he's speaking his truth. All that money doesn't protect you from emotional burnout," a third user posted. Side-by-side paparazzi shots, one from 2023 where Bezos looked sun-kissed and relaxed next to Sánchez aboard their yacht, and a more recent one where he appeared gaunt, withdrawn, and deep in thought during a solo appearance in Malibu, told a story of their own. "Look at the difference," the caption read. "Money can't buy peace." The guy looks exhausted. Lauren Sánchez's supporters, fans, and even some media insiders quickly came to her defense. For them, the entire leak reeked of manipulation. "This whole thing stinks," one user wrote. "It feels planted. Convenient, isn't it? Just when people start questioning why there's no wedding, suddenly there's an unknown source speaking to the press." Another chimed in, "It's not like we haven't seen this playbook before. Tear down the woman to protect the brand." Many pointed out that Sánchez has never publicly lashed out or spoken ill of Bezos, even when her own family turmoil was splashed across headlines. Instead, she remained composed, supportive, and loyal. "Until I hear Jeff or Lauren say these things with their own mouths, I'm not buying it," one user posted. Anyone can invent a quote. Anonymous sources don't carry the weight they used to. Others questioned the ethics behind the leak itself. If this really was a private, vulnerable conversation, one journalist tweeted, then who decided to violate that trust, and why now? This feels more like a power play than a confession. The digital conversation grew increasingly layered, with every corner of the internet, celebrity news, business forums, relationship podcasts, even political commentators, weighing in. Some speculated the leak was part of a strategic prelude to a quiet separation, a PR chess move designed to prepare the public for a forthcoming announcement. Others suggested Bezos may have been trying to gain back control of a narrative that had spiraled too far beyond his comfort zone. And through all the noise, all the theories, and all the clamor, one element remained constant: an eerie silence from both parties. No clarifying post on Instagram. No elegant quote slipped to a trusted journalist. No statement from a spokesperson. Nothing. And now, all eyes are on the couple, not for a wedding date, but for their next move. What comes next for the billionaire and his fiancée as the dust from the leaks continues to swirl? Public perception of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sánchez has shifted dramatically from admiration and fascination to scrutiny, suspicion, and for some, outright disbelief. The once seemingly unshakable couple now appears to be teetering on the edge of an uncertain future, their carefully curated image unraveling under the weight of growing doubt and whispered revelations. Behind the scenes, insiders paint a picture of a relationship in crisis. Some claim the engagement is hanging by a thread, with Bezos reportedly growing more distant, more introspective, and more cautious with every passing week. According to sources close to the billionaire, he has been re-evaluating everything. Not just the timing of the wedding, but the very foundation of the relationship itself. The emotional weight of public scrutiny combined with internal pressure and unresolved tension has pushed him into a place few have seen him before: hesitant, silent, and possibly regretful. Meanwhile, Sánchez continues to project an air of control and forward motion. In scattered public appearances and brief interviews, she has made vague allusions to wedding planning, casual mentions of venues, dresses, and future hopes. But to those paying closer attention, the statements feel more like placeholders than plans. There is no confirmed date, no guest list, no evident progress, just vague smiles, cryptic words, and a growing sense that something is being held back. Privately, some believe Sánchez is determined to salvage the engagement, clinging to the vision of a future they once boldly promised the world. Others suggest she too is aware of the crumbling facade and is merely buying time. Time for damage control, time to rewrite the narrative, time to prepare for whatever is coming next. And that's the question that now consumes both the media and the public. What comes next? Will Bezos call off the engagement in a cold, calculated announcement timed to avoid market volatility and media backlash? Will he finally break his silence and confirm what so many are now beginning to suspect, that the fairy tale was never as perfect as it seemed? Or will the couple defy the odds, silence the rumors, and emerge stronger, shocking the world with a bold, united front? The possibilities are endless. The truth remains elusive. But one thing is no longer in question. Whatever announcement Jeff Bezos makes next, whatever final move he chooses, it won't be what anyone expects, and it almost certainly won't be good. Because when a man who's mastered the art of controlling everything, his image, his empire, his legacy, suddenly goes quiet, that silence isn't peace. It's the calm before a storm. What do you think about Jeff's announcement? Feel free to share your comments with us in the comments section. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.